Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the What Topic podcast with your hosts, Josh Deakin at Mr. Josh Deakin.
And your co-host, Owun Birkett at Owun.Birkett.
Yes, and we're back again. As you can imagine, we come back and forth as regularly as we hope. But as you say, as we always say, life is, the big thing that gets in the way of us doing more episodes sometimes. Something different today, different microphone, sounds a little bit different. Owun is also on his AirPods today. He's having a bit more of a chiller microphone setup today. But you know what? Microphones sound good on the AirPods, so no complaints on this end.
No, I just felt like I was just kind of sitting there. I was just saying to you, I was just like, I just can't be fucked to get everything set up. It's like I have to clear my desk and then set up the microphone. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm not today, basically.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you on that. Like, there are days that you just, want to do that. And if for OG listeners to the podcast, we did both start with AirPods recording on Anchor back in the day. So, pretty much an OG situation if you think about it. There, going back to that again. I mean, the microphone sounds just amazing still on the AirPods Pro. I mean, the new ones. I've heard the microphone on the new ones, and they sound really good as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've been looking at the new ones, but I just thought these ones still work just as well when I got them last year. So I just thought, sod it, just keep going a bit until I probably need new ones. So
yeah, there's no rushes there, that's for sure. Definitely. Oh man, I tell you what though, it may, according to all the weather meteorologists, like the Met Office in the UK, it's not winter yet according to them, but it's starting to get colder, and I can definitely tell you that because I'm getting a very snotty nose. But for those of you that are very very much in that same scenario as well, I have sympathy with you too. But yeah, it's heading that way now. So if you hear a bit of a sniffle throughout the episode, which you more than likely will, I apologise in advance, and I apologise to you, Owun, if you hear any sniffles. I'll try and keep them less HD or high quality, right? Oh my. So we have a few topics to talk about today. We kind of briefly talked about what order we wanted to talk about them in. Did you want to still talk about the zombie virus first?
I mean, I haven't really looked into it. I just saw numerous news articles online just saying that they discovered I don't know. It wasn't frozen or anything, or was it just?
So I've got the article here. I have from Skinners. I don't know why I said it like that for us. So basically, it was trapped in the Siberian permafrost for nearly 50,000 years. So a team from the French National Centre for Scientific Research said further work needs to be carried out to assess what dangers could lie ahead from the risk of the virus. Basically, the virus is inside the permafrost, and obviously climate change is obviously warming up that ice. So if there's a chance that could leak into the system and basically become like a natural catastrophe or something. I don't know. I mean, they say in the article they found 13 new viruses basically, and they were collected from Siberia, obviously the Russian provenance. So yeah, one of the viruses has remained infectious after more than 48,500 years. That's mad. That's so mad. The viruses are different than your typical viruses. They're known as Pandoria viruses that infects only single-cell organisms and should pose no threat to humans. But hey, scientists have got things wrong in the past, so it's quite interesting though. It is that a virus, at least one of those viruses, has survived basically nearly 50,000 years. That's mind blowing, right?
Yeah, that's it. And it was just, I think, considering, I haven't read the comments, but you just kind of say to yourself, come on, we were just joking about, it's going to be like a zombie virus and this and that. Yeah. And now we've found out that there's actually a zombie virus. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ! or you just quote like from Randy Marsh in South Park going, "Oh my God!"
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny. It's interesting. I think to kind of like guess sort of like a fork of that off of that sort of story is like I think there's definitely been an uptick in more scientific news articles talking about stuff that could be a threat to us, which is funny because obviously I say we never saw COVID coming. Obviously we saw COVID or at least something of that type coming. It's just that we didn't expect it when we expected it. Like you're never going to expect it coming at tomorrow or next week or a month or a year later. But when it comes down to like the independent research, it's there, but like not very well publicized. I think since COVID, I think news outlets and I guess the wider sort of journalist systems in the world think that people would like to know about this sort of stuff more often, which could be a blessing and a curse because you might scare the wrong person, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like we're still coming out of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Like even though despite people thinking or treating it as like we're out of it, like we're back to normal, even though that it's going to take a few more years till we get some sort of normalcy.
Exactly.
It's the fact that we're getting news like, oh, we found a zombie virus. We're like, we don't need this. No. Not now.
We're so not into that virus, about that. It's definitely one of the things and this is the thing that annoys me as well. Like the articles obviously are titled the way they are to get you to look at them, and then you go down a few pages or a few words, and you're like, yeah, it's not harmful to humans. They say, obviously, quotation marks, and obviously scientists generally speaking are correct. And obviously, if you go back to like the sort of early days of COVID, they were talking about, oh yeah, we've got research already for the vaccine because obviously of SARS in the past. So and like you have to weigh your sort of like situation of like knowledge to people and the way you talk to people, because obviously people are very different in receiving and receptive of knowledge, if that makes sense, from like scientists now more than ever.
Yeah, that's it. So it's just again, like we just don't know much about it, and we're just going to have to take it with a whole grain of pinch of salt.
Take it with a big old Siberian piece of salt. Siberian salt mines,
a whole load of Siberian G virus like salt.
G virus, man! You made me think of Resident Evil. Bloody hell! That takes you back.
I mean, that was kind of the aim.
Yeah,
that was the kind of aim, and then we're just gonna have like Albert Wesker going, no.
Yeah, I'll just have a massive eye on the side of me like William Birkin. Like, hey, look at me! I've got a big eye here. What's going on?
Hey, I got a bunch of eyes going out of me. Is that normal?
Do I need to take paracetamol for that?
The only way to defeat you is by shooting you with a rocket launcher. That's it.
Seems legit. I mean, it works on tyrants.
I mean that's been working with every Resident Evil game. Like, how do we defeat Mr. X? Rocket launcher. That's it.
Yeah, rocket launcher it's like a tier list. Like rocket launcher, top of the tier list. Silly little pistol right at the bottom.
It's like the pistol used to be working it's like, oh, this pistol was working with me so well up to this point.
To be fair, you'd have the knife that you're just like, oh yeah, I'll try and shank Mr. X, see if he kills him.
I mean, even when you kill them, it just that little movement of the arm. It's like ugh!
We're literally just taking Resident Evil 4, the OG game, and just like laughing in its face a little bit. Obviously, we know the new Resident Evil 4 remake is starting to look pretty good. I mean, not that we wanted to spill into that conversation, but I mean, like, we haven't really spoke about Resident Evil 4 because it obviously was revealed.
I mean, if you're going to be talking about zombie viruses, like Resident Evil was going to be inevitable to bring up. So,
to be fair, I'm really excited for it. I think a lot of it looks really good. They've done a good job of keeping things similar.
I mean, it does look absolutely solid, and I just hope that it's going to be. I mean, I still haven't yet got round to playing the Resident Evil 3 remake. I mean, as much as the thing I didn't buy it like when it came out because everyone was saying like it's short, it's it looks great, like it's working with the same RE engine from Resident Evil 2. which that was amazing.
Oh yeah.
But the fact was, like, it was just odd that there was quite a number of missions or levels or just moments in the original Resident Evil 3 game that was missing in the remake, and it just therefore made it shorter. And it was just really odd. But I bought it when it was on sale, so I was like, I'm not that fussed about it. And I just bought recently the gold edition of Resident Evil 8 Village.
Oh yeah, they just released that, didn't they? It's got what's her name? His daughter. What's her name? Rose. Yeah, the Rose. I haven't played that yet. I've watched more of Resident Evil 8 than I've played it, and like it wouldn't hurt me to go and play the Winter's expansion if I had to. Just go straight into it.
Yeah,
I've heard it's very difficult.
Yeah, I heard it's quite short, and I
think it's supposed to be like a decent length. I don't think it's like completely short, but like, I mean, we've had shorter DLC, I think, from the Resident Evil series, definitely.
Yeah, the thing that I'm interested in playing is the third person view.
Because obviously the third person view, because of the fact of Ethan's face, isn't it? Like, they're still not showing you it, even though you can literally hack the game on PC and like turn his face around.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny how when you try and turn the camera, like, he still like looks away or covers his face or whatever. So
it's so random. Like, there's like a lot of the YouTubers I watch. I think I watch. I forget what there's Evil Dead or something like that, I think, on YouTube. Hey Devia, a few other YouTubers. Like, if I remember, I'll stick a few links in the show notes for people that are listening that want to go and check out some of these Resident Evil content creators, etc. I mean, a lot of them are really good at like talking about the lore and stuff like that. Like, I think it'd be quite an interesting episode to talk about the Resident Evil lore and like how we feel about Resident Evil, like, and how the movies have sort of, and the TV adaptations, etc., have like sort of like crossed alongside the video games, and like how we feel Resident Evil is as a franchise across the different parts of the entertainment sides.
I mean, that's definitely something to talk about when Resident Evil 4 remake comes out in March next year.
Maybe like an episode, like a bonus episode or something.
Well, it will be interesting, as I remember Resident Evil 4 is very prominent to me because it was the first Resident Evil game I actually played. I hadn't played, 1 to 3 at that point.
You know what? It's actually the same for me. My first Resident Evil game was Resident Evil 4. Yeah. Then Umbrella Chronicles on the Wii. I didn't play Dark Side Chronicles, but Krishna owned it. For those who I'm mentioning Krishna, we've had him on the podcast before. He's one of my childhood best friends, and me and him literally have like a passion of love for Resident Evil since like basically we've been friends. And like he always references Resident Evil 4 as being like the ultimate Resident Evil game. It's literally like one of the best games of all time, and I guess that's where the sort of I would say the peer pressure, that's the wrong words, I guess just the general pressure comes from like making a remake. Because don't get me wrong, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 obviously had a lot going for them because people were like hoping for it to be really good, and even Resident Evil 1 remake as well. Like, if you throw all the different remakes and the different remasters, Capcom had to really hit a high standard, not just because there were new games, but because they were beloved games from people's childhoods, and like even people who are coming up in the series like later on, years or like 10 plus years after those first games come out. Resident Evil 4 is probably the one where they're literally bricking it if they don't get it right, if you ask me.
Well, especially with the remake, because like you said, like, it's considered one of the best games, not just one of the best in the series, but one of the best video games of all time. And there's a reason for it, because again, like I said, I've never played Resident Evil. I've heard of it. I remember certain bits and pieces about it, but apart from playing any of the previous ones, like, I've never had to. So I basically went into it blind, and it was amazing. And I do remember I remember playing it for like a week solid, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a break because I must be halfway, or must be near the end. And then it was like, it wasn't until another week I was like, oh my God, like, how long is this game? And it was just so long. So that's the other thing about the Resident Evil 4 remake, is it going to be the same length as the original? Like, are they going to skimp on certain things or anything like that? I hope not, because Resident Evil 2 remake was absolutely amazing. The fact that they basically just built it from the ground up, and not only just built it from the ground up, like they got new voice actors and they done new motion capturing to do the sort of cinematics, and they kind of polished up with the RE engine, and then they just done a phenomenal job. So I hope they apply that to the Resident Evil 4 remake, because that would, if they can do it the same way they did with Resident Evil 2, man, that would be absolutely just mind blowing.
It really would, honestly. I think the biggest thing for me really is that, because and this is the funniest part really, is like you look at like the ways that people come into the franchise, and you know, whether people like it or not, a lot of people did come in from the movie franchise, mainly the first Resident Evil film and the second Resident Evil film, Apocalypse. And like, yeah, it's a point of contention for a lot of gamers that are Resident Evil, you know, gaming specific, focus, etc. They don't care that much for the films, whether they're cinema or not. They don't really give a shit about them. But whether you like it or not, the movies did those first two movies, and you know, maybe the first film as well, like really did cement that sort of like, if you like this sort of thing, there is a game series that is literally focused on all of this, and you are missing out. I mean, the further the series got, obviously the film just. And let's not even talk about Welcome to Raccoon City, because we could both literally shit on that film for days on end, probably. But the point stands that the series is such a enriching set of games. Like, wherever you enter the series, you're going to have a sort of a behemoth amount of enjoyment. And like, as you said, like, yeah, it was like, oh, am I ever going to get to the end of the game? And like, obviously everyone varies differently when they get to playing games. Like, you might take longer than, you know, whatever the completionist amount of hours is supposed to be, like on, you know, those tracking websites that you can see how long it takes to finish a game, or finish just the game with like without all the extras and achievements, etc. You know, if you want to work out how you're going to do all those extra things and what hours you need to play for, but when you really encompass it, like, you can really get lost in a lot of these games, and like, whether it takes you many hours or not, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, you know, engrossing yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's just, you know, some people, you know, watch the movies without playing the games, and it's just a bit unfortunate, because, you know, you're watching the films and it's just like it's nothing like.
Yeah, that they don't translate over and play the games afterwards. They just go, "Oh, that was a good film," and they move on.
And it's just, for me, like, I remember watching the second one, Resident Evil Apocalypse. I thought, this is dog shit.
Oh, like, okay, fair enough. I do think the second film falls a bit short than the first film. I mean, the first film is definitely still the most profitable of the series, and I mean, for good reason. It really doesn't have many downfalls. Like, the way that it's designed, the way the music is done, like, yeah, the sort of like rock punky music at the end of the film really doesn't work, I don't feel like. But like, obviously you can skip the credits, you know. But the movie music, when you're zooming into the bit where he's just grabbing all of the virus stuff in the case, that has spine chills. That does that whole moment there where you're literally coming from the darkness into the middle of the grabbing the viruses sort of area. But hey, I could talk about that for hours. I could do a whole movie review on it, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I just wasn't, you know, the fact that you had, you know, Nemesis, and it's just like they had the fight with like with Alice and Nemesis, and it was just like,
that was very
you
pathetic,
could tell, like, that. It was like, you could tell, like, the actor in the Nemesis suit, like, just could not do anything instead of just standing there, and then
it looked like it was just too heavy. Whether it was legit heaviness, or like it was just like, you know, not even heaviness, but like movability, right?
I mean, it's just like, you know, you got Mila Jovovich as Alice, like, just doing all these, you know, martial arts moves, and, you know, doing backflips and all that, and he's just standing there going,
yeah.
And it's just, yeah, and it was just, the whole thing just looked cheap, and yeah, it just, nah. I mean, like I said, like, at least the problem with the Welcome to Raccoon City, like, again, we've all said it before, but that was absolute dog shit. That was a dumpster fire, basically. I mean,
really
they were
was.
like, you had the typical director like just saying, it's like every director that talks about a property, especially a video game property, that goes, "Oh, I'm a huge fan of X," whatever franchise that they're talking about.
I think they're going to get a free pass then to do what they want with the series.
I mean, it just for me, it's like I've heard this before, and it never goes well. And lo and behold, it didn't go well.
It's a shame, really, that the movie, like from behind the scenes content and Instagram stuff, it looks quite good, and that's a shame because you can paint a really biased, hyped up image before the film even comes out. I mean, even the Resident Evil TV show, like, don't get me wrong, we've already spoken about this on the podcast before, but I did enjoy the Resident Evil TV show, and obviously I'm going to still stick to my guns on that one, and that's fair enough. But obviously Owen and a lot of other people, have that opinion of the fact that like there was just so many elements that weren't right. Like, I agree that like the things with the kids weren't great. There's so many different things that could have been better, and it's a shame because they weren't better. Netflix didn't keep it going, and like you've got other shows on Netflix, like Is It a Cake or Not a Cake, that still get an extra series, whereas this TV show, Resident Evil, the first time it's on a proper live action TV show, they could have gave it another season, and maybe it might have actually done well in the second season, because sometimes a first season isn't like a first film. It doesn't hit immediately, sometimes it hits in the second series. You got to throw with the dice, I feel like, and I think Netflix, alongside a lot of all the other streaming companies, is the worst at like just going for quick shit and then not bothering to continue with it. But hey, like I say, that's a whole other can of worms I could get into.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I still haven't got around to watching it, but there was just certain bits and pieces when I was watching for the trailer, and then hearing like a certain casting decisions and this and that. I was just like, I don't know. But obviously, I can't say anything like that. I can only give my opinion to something that I've seen that has been advertised.
If you want an honest opinion from someone who actually likes it, it's a damn sight better to watch than Welcome to Raccoon City. So even if you end up not enjoying it, you'll enjoy the CGI, the way that they cast the different, like if you're looking at it from a filmmaker's perspective, it is a very well recorded, or should I say filmed TV show. There's no doubt in that. Like, I feel like this show was created in a good time. Like, whether it flops or not, generally speaking, if they'd done the TV show like 10 or 15 years ago, I don't think it would have hit as well, because everything in certain perspectives just looks great. And obviously with cameras getting better and better, as you know, obviously Owen, within the industry, like, you're always, even extras in the backgrounds of like different films and TV shows, you can see them in like crystal quality these days. They're not blurred out as much as they used to be. Like, obviously you got your bokeh and everything in different filming scenarios, but like, I feel like certain TV shows really couldn't hit back in the day. Like, even the Halo TV show, like, obviously a lot of people have got hate for that as well, and I enjoyed it personally, I'll be honest. Whether that makes you think I'm quite a dull TV watcher that just likes a lot of things, which isn't the case, but, less said. You just look at the general scope of things. Like, some TV shows and films just couldn't hit voice crack, just couldn't hit back in the day. And I think you can understand that, right?
I mean, it's just like, again, like, I just see certain things about like certain adaptations. I think it's adaptations to certain properties that are quite popular. I mean, we've had Halo on Paramount Plus, and now we're going to be having The Last of Us coming out on HBO.
I'm excited for that, and that's coming from somebody who's only ever watched someone play the game.
Exciting. I mean, I played both parts 1 and 2, so I'm, quite a fan of the series. And I mean, I'm one of those, the other half of players that immediately thought part 2 was another masterpiece from Naughty Dog. Despite that, the certain bits and pieces were leaked before the game came out.
Yeah, that was pretty shitty. That wasn't it?
And then there was like the whole thing of people having against a certain character and then sending death threats to
that was
one of the actors.
Really unwarranted, wasn't it?
and then it was like sending, anti-Semitic, drawings and messages to the director Neil Druckmann, which is like, that's a shitty thing to do. So the fact that the Last of Us series is co-created by Craig Mazin, who created the other HBO series, Chernobyl, which was amazing.
Yeah, it definitely gives it a lot of weight. It's funny, actually. Like, I haven't watched Chernobyl all the way through. I've only watched one episode, and because of how this might sound daft to some people, but because of how depressing it was, I struggled to even go through to the next episode. I still haven't watched the second episode of Chernobyl, and that shows you sometimes that it's the power of the way that someone or some people create content that it makes it obviously the point is to try and lure you into watching the next episode. Obviously I do want to watch the next episode, but I had the same problem with Mr. Robot on Amazon Prime years ago. You have to force yourself to keep watching, because it does, obviously the show pays off and you find out how things progress, but obviously because Chernobyl is such a disaster, it's not going to get better. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And people obviously buy into that sort of thing. They like that. It's the same people who like to watch murder mystery TV shows, and how murder mysteries happen. And what was fixed in the future was the person caught. Stuff like that, right? So I think the Last of Us TV show. I'll be honest, this is probably a very biased thing to say, but I think it will not flop. I think it has no reason to flop. The actors they've chosen look perfect for the roles. They might act like shit, I don't know. But
no, we all had our fan castings, in our minds. So when it was Pedro Pascal got cast as Joel Miller, I was like, oh, okay. He was never on my list, but I liked him in Game of Thrones and The Mandalorian.
Exactly,
so yeah, I'm fine with that, and the fact that they've kept with the sort of Latino casting with I think it was, what's his name? I think it was Diego Luna, I think, as Tommy. Because in the games they're played by Caucasian actors, or they are Caucasian in the game, but they are played by Caucasian actors.
It's good that they're trying to I can't think what the wording is. They're trying to pay homage to the video game in the best way possible. So, if the voice actors were from a certain background, or ethnic, they're not going, right, this person was black in the video game, we're gonna have a white actor for this one. They're actually justifying the means to translate the game and the film across, right?
Well, I just think that because Neil Druckmann is actually involved in the TV series, not just as an executive producer or producer, he's actually legit involved with the series.
Exactly, he's got the passions there.
He's the one who created The Last of Us. So if anything, he's the one who, if you have anything against the casting, then you have against of his decision making.
He has the final say, of course. Yeah.
So the fact, and then also there was Belle Ramsey got cast as Ellie.
I was quite interested to see that one, because I feel like I've seen her in Game of Thrones, because she's got that face of the younger kid that was in Game of Thrones as one of the queens. I'm not sure if it's Game of Thrones. I might be getting that confused.
It is. No, it is. She is from Game of Thrones. So obviously, funny enough, they're both the lead actors were from Game of Thrones.
You know what? They're both great actors, and I think they've both been cast. I'll be honest. I think they've both been cast okay, because they both look very similar to their characters in the game anyway. Which is obviously they've closed them up, obviously, to the costume stuff to make it look more like the game, which makes sense. But Pedro has that right hairstyle, and for Ellie, she looks very much like Ellie.
Yeah, no, I'm totally down with it, and I've seen the trailers, and the only thing that I do agree on with other people I've heard in other podcasts that say that the only thing that might distance some people is the fact that it looks like the new replacement of The Walking Dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, Although the difference with that is this is obviously not on AMC. This is on HBO. So you hope and pray that it's got that spunk that won't become like a Walking Dead, and it's just going to keep on going and going and going. If the Last of Us TV show only ran for 2 series or 3, I don't think anyone would have a complaint with it at all.
No, but I mean, I don't think it matters that that the other one was AMC and this is HBO. Even though for me, it's like HBO just has the quality.
That's what I mean. With HBO, there has been times, and obviously Game of Thrones Series 8. Let's be honest, and Season 6. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But on the whole, there are many TV shows that HBO either has a hand in or produces on part with that aren't great. So it says a lot, really, doesn't it?
HBO has produced, basically my favorite TV series, which is The Wire, and that TV show is incredible.
Incredible.
I mean, that just ran 5 seasons. It did what it needed to. It didn't get cancelled. It finished where it finished, and it's perfect.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, the reason why The Walking Dead is ending now at some point, I don't know if it's over yet or it's still finished. It's about to finish. And I think the biggest reason is because people are starting to not watch it anymore because they're just doing it for the money at this point. Like, you can see, I haven't been watching for. I haven't watched in series 2, to be honest. I must be honest. I dropped off after season 2 because there's only so far you can go with creative writing when money's the only thing that's fueling it, really. Because past that, it's not a passion project no more. It's just a money spinner. And you've got other shows that are like that. Like, don't get me wrong, people loathe or love, like a love and hate relationship with Riverdale. Riverdale is going to end soon, or reboot a little bit soon. I mean, maybe the reboot might make it a better show for people that didn't like it, and it doesn't have so many weird turns and all sorts of shit. But the reality is, there are some shows that just have that sort of staying power that they shouldn't. They shouldn't. And The Walking Dead, in my opinion, shouldn't, because there's just no character there. Game of Thrones, it was going to be 10 series. No, sorry, 8 series, 10 episodes each season. You knew what you were getting into, right? Whereas these shows, they go, okay, we get to this point. Let's keep on renewing it. And it's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I think the other trouble is that the comic series of The Walking Dead, I don't know if it's still going or it's finished, but it did go on quite a while.
Yeah.
And I think that was what it was, that they were basically adapting each of every volume there was until they, either people get fed up with it, which for the sounds of it, people didn't. Hence why it went on for about 12 seasons.
Jesus, yeah,
something like that. Something like that. I mean, to be honest, I finished after. I mean, I think I started. I think it was season 4 or 5 where they escaped from the jail and they went to that village or something, or that suburban little area. And I stopped it there, because I was like, oh, let me guess. They go to a new location. They think it's amazing, but then there's something really sinister, or a zombie somehow finds a way in, and then it causes chaos and panic, and then they all split off together and they meet up. And I'm like, how many more times do we need to keep doing this?
And sorry, you're on about The Walking Dead with this, right?
Yes, I'm talking about The Walking Dead.
I could have sworn I misheard you for a second, and I wasn't sure if you were on about The Walking Dead. Yeah, I agree with that.
And yeah, but it's just, so that's the thing, that might, deter people with The Last of Us. It's like, when you're trying to explain somebody, it's like, oh, what's The Last of Us? And it's like, oh, it's about, a guy that, lost a daughter and then, has to, try deliver this little girl to this little base somewhere in America, and it's all covered with infected people, and it's like, oh, it's like The Walking Dead then, and it's just like, like, do people
it
want
really
to
hurts
watch another property?
the creative direction of this, like, obviously, because it's obviously adapted from the video game, of course. It's not a brand new IP, so then, like, it's already tainted by other zombie content. Like, a good example of a TV show that I do like that's on Netflix is called Van Helsing. Like, I've watched it very slowly. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I've watched like 1 or 2 episodes maybe every few months, which for me is surprising, because there are some times where I'll just consume myself in a TV show. And I just think that, generally speaking, it has that same quirk as Walking Dead, where like, it's like, we found something, shit, it's fucked, and then it's like, okay, cliffhanger for next episode. It's like cookie cutter, like copy and paste, isn't it? Like, do the same thing every time. Like the Walking Dead does this so often, and I mean, there's other shows like The Vampire Diaries that, I like The Vampire Diaries, but like they always like fall on their back, and they're like, we'll get them next time, or we'll sort it out next time, and you just feel like you want to get to the end of the series just so you can like start anew, and that shouldn't be the case with TV shows, so there is that concern that people are going to think that's the vibe with The Last of Us, because of other TV shows that have caused that. They've caused that sort of like ruining effect.
I think it's like similar to superhero fatigue. It's like the zombie, like post-apocalyptic fatigue.
Too much of it, too much of it.
But no, like it's just like I'm excited for it. It'll be interesting because obviously, I don't know if they've done. I mean, obviously they've done video game adaptations on TV like Resident Evil, but this will be one that has a huge, prestigious sort of studio backing. Like, obviously, it's got PlayStation and Sony, and
hopefully,
and obviously
enough of that backing and enough of the good work that they've done to make it have that staying power as well.
Because there have been talks of like turning GTA into a movie franchise when everyone else has been saying just turn it into a TV series.
Yeah, TV series. Like, if you sort of maybe like sprinkled a bit of comedy in there, then you'd be thinking of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, if you ask me. But Brooklyn Nine-Nine obviously is like that sort of satire, like where it just ends after like 25 minutes, which is like your bog standard, Simpsons, Family Guy, American Dad, The Cleveland Show. Those kind of shows that always run for like 22 to 25 minutes average, and that's fine. Like, those shows do their job. How I Met Your Mother as well. Like, they're like 20 something minutes. They pack a lot into an episode. Don't get me wrong, that's for sure. And like they're not just like always terrible. Like, there's episodes that are great, and there's episodes that are just full shit. But when it comes to like doing a concept where you if you go anything past half an hour up to 45 minutes to an hour, I think it needs to hit a certain level to gain popularity with people and to stick with, have that staying power,
Yeah, I mean, recently, I think the recent one I've really been enjoying is Andor, that's on Disney Plus.
Unfortunately, I'm not a Star Wars guy, for those people who are still new to the podcast, or I don't know, if you might know, you might not know, but I do know that Andor seems to have hit well with a lot of people that didn't like The Mandalorian, like Andor, right?
I mean, first of all, shame on you. But
I mean, I know. I'll be honest. I'll probably get to the Star Wars franchise properly in the future. I know it's a sin. I haven't watched the Lord of the Rings TV show. People probably are like, "What? You haven't watched that either?" Nah, I just watched House of the Dragon.
Well, I mean, if you're one of those typical people that commented that it was like, "Oh, the Lord of the Rings is shit," and this and that. It's not that bad.
Shit, but like, for me, I just couldn't divide my attention between two different shows in the same week. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Lord of the Rings TV series, like, it's honestly like it's not like what the people are in the comments section in YouTube and Instagram saying. Like, it is not dog shit. Like, it's far from being the worst thing I've seen. It's better than the Hobbit trilogy that Peter Jackson did, but I think it's just with Star Wars Andor, like, that was like 45 minutes per episode, and it packed quite a number of it, and it was 12 episodes long, and I was totally gripped, like, from beginning to end, and there was no sort of there were Easter eggs, but they were like in the background, like they're supposed to be, and there was no callbacks to like characters. I mean, minus maybe Mon Mothma, and I'm trying to think if there's maybe any other characters. I think that's literally it. All the other characters are actually in minus the main. The main character, Cassian Andor from Rogue One. But apart from that, the rest of it, like, you know, those brand new characters, like, you know, expanded the world of like Coruscant and everything. Like, you know, you didn't see a Skywalker, you didn't see Darth Vader, you didn't see this and that. And I really appreciated it. I was like, oh my God, like an actual Star Wars movie that didn't rely on, you know, cheap, you know, fan based moments. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't, you know, it wasn't consorting onto those, you know, it wasn't trying to please the fans. It was like, we're going to just tell a story. It's still set in the Star Wars universe, but, you know, we're telling it as we want it to be. Like, we're not going to do cheap, you know, not going to do cheap fan moments that people are going to, you know, geek out. And it's like, basically, it's just going to be like, you know, oh, it's there and gone. That's it. And then, you know, could you have cut it out from the story? Probably. This, however, like, it was just like, we're going to tell a story. We're not going to press the emergency lightsaber Jedi button or anything like that. And so it's just, you know, things like that. Like, I just think like it depends on the content, because you got like shows like Fleabag that's like 20, 25 minutes long, and I honestly, I don't see a reason why to make it any longer than that. It needed to do what it needs to do in each episode for 20, 25 minutes. Whereas I think with a story like Star Wars or even like The Lord of the Rings, where they're like 45 minutes to an hour long, like they need to, you know, cram in as much as they can to make it the epic that it is.
I agree with that, definitely, because you're kind of going off of what I said as well, aren't you? Because, like, you know, some shows they know that they make sense in that sort of, you know, 22 minutes to 25 minutes sort of realm, but if you go past that, you only should really be doing it up to 45 to an hour if it makes sense. Like, you need that extra time. Like a show like Game of Thrones or House of Dragon or Lord of the Rings wouldn't work in half an hour, because it's so much to squeeze in half an hour, and to build that lore up for people that maybe don't read the books or, you know, have never seen the films in, like, you know, whichever series, you want to be able to comfortably sit the audience into an episode. So, you know, for people who like watch, like, you know, like How I Met Your Mother, like a lot of that stuff is like, you can get a lot of the lore in your head in, like, you know, 1 episode, 2 episodes. Like, you can sort of understand who the base of the characters are, where they are, you know, whereas like Game of Thrones or, like, you know, House of Dragon or Lord of the Rings, there's massive landscapes, isn't that, in those shows? And you want to be able to make sure that people don't get lost in those realms without an idea of what's going on.
Well, that's the thing about when I remember watching season 1 of Game of Thrones, like, because obviously I've never read the books, and so there was a lot to take in. You know, you got the different families, like you got the Starks, you got the Lannisters, you got the Targaryens, you've got just all these families, and so you need that hour to kind of go, okay, that's that character with that family, and he's with that family, and she and they, and this and that. And because if you did that in 20, 30 minutes, then you'd be like, oh, Jesus Christ, like, it's kind of doing homework mentally. Like, you're going, okay, that character, oh my God. So, so I think it will be a good thing, you know, in terms of like a video game adaptation, because obviously, you know, a game is as long as you wanted to play it with. Like, you can play just the main missions, or you can play the main missions plus the side quests and whatnot.
Yeah, it's pretty modular, isn't it? Like, you can sort of, like, if you don't care for, like, it's like people who came up in video games, like, yeah, Call of Duty and Battlefield, and like, you could play the campaign if you wanted, but you could go straight into multiplayer or co-op, couldn't you? So there is that difference with a video game, whereas a TV show, you really have to, and a film, you really have to put the legwork in, don't you?
Because I think it has shown that video game adaptations in film just does not work.
They don't land
because
very
there's
well.
So much to unpack.
Yeah,
and you know, and most of the time they're just rubbish. Anyways,
I mean, it's such a shame, because the amount of hype behind them is just like you sometimes you actually do fall into the hype, and it really annoys you when it doesn't come out the way you hoped it to be. I mean, let's be honest here, the amount of Hitman adaptations at this point now is actually outrageous. It's egregious.
I mean, there's only two, but both of them just failed. Like, I remember watching the first
Two is
one.
just
It's
too many,
similar.
let's be honest,
Yeah. I mean, I went to see the first one, and I think it was only because I was just bored, and I just started university. Yeah, it was 2007, so I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna watch Hitman, and it was a load of dog shit. And then I remember the second one, came out 2015, I think. And again, I've just had the membership. I think I had the Odeon membership, or again, I was bored. So I just went, you know what? I'm not expecting anything much from it. So I'm just going to go see it. And again, it was a load of dog shit. And it was the same with, with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat didn't land it.
Oh, the version. I mean, even the new one. Like, I thought the opening of Mortal Kombat was actually pretty cool, but then after that, it was just come on, seriously.
Which is why I'm really I'm holding my laurels for this. I'm really hoping that the new Super Mario movie is going to be good when that comes out, because the trailer that came out yesterday, it looks so good. The thing is, Nintendo is ingrained in the process with Illumination. Is it Illumination? I think that's the company that's making it.
Yeah,
with Universal Pictures. Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing that I'm like, because I watched maybe the first Despicable Me film, and I was like, that's enough to deal with the fucking minions. I hate the minions.
The thing that a lot of people really appreciate with this, and I think this is one of the things that makes a video game adaptation into a film or TV show work well, is when you've got the right actors with the right vocal cords. They've got bloody fucking Jack Black as Bowser, man. You cannot disagree with that. That is a perfect pairing, because Jack Black is such this massive personality. Anyone who's grown up with Jack Black, School of Rock, he's madman. And you think of Bowser, I think of Jack Black. Jack Black really fits the profile.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would that caused a bit of just thinking really because Chris Pratt it was because it was Twitter and Instagram. He goes, man, I'm gonna put on a voice that is gonna be really different. It's he made it out like he's gonna be really different, or it's gonna be I'm putting a lot of work to make it sound like Mario. And you listen to it it's just Chris Pratt.
I think it's very easy to just remember it's Chris Pratt, but I see where the agnosticity comes from. Well,
it's just funny, when he goes, okay, it's a go, and I was like, oh, right, really? We're going to do the Stewie couple? I know, because of the typical, when you quote Mario, you always go, it's a me, the Mario, that.
Yeah, anyone can do it if you've got the right accent. It's a me, a Mario. There you go.
But then I don't whoa like that. Yeah. So, man, the amount of times I just kind of like that.
Well, so, if you do the throat and you go wow, there you go. I mean, it's a bit like SpongeBob actually.
Or you do it like a Yoshi when he jumps, goes
that's it,
like that.
I can do Yoshi. Yoshi. There you go. That's me. I can do Yoshi.
Yoshi. Yeah. So anyone can do that. But
I'm glad you guys can't see us doing these faces.
But the thing about it's just when you hear Chris Pratt, because you expect Chris Pratt to do the stereotypical sort of the Italian voice, but he doesn't really do that. But he does when he does that, he get it's a go a go or something like that.
It's the pronunciation. So, is he going to be able to keep it up and do it properly? That's the thing.
He's doing the pronunciations and the how to say it in a Mario way, rather than doing the voice of Mario. Does that make sense?
It's a bit annoying, really, because before even you get to the voice, Mario definitely would be played by someone like Chris Pratt or Ryan Reynolds, kind of thing. It makes sense. It's the kind of characteristic, isn't it?
Or if you're gonna do it like, I mean, if you're gonna do anything, like, just do it like the Bronx Italian, like New York Italian, like with what Bob Hoskins did in the '90s film, which I thought if you're gonna go one way or the other, then you just do that version, which is fine.
Yeah, which is not like causing offense or like making people just think like, what the fuck? Like, you've built up this moment for what? And it's a shame, really, then, because it'll literally like take the good vibes away from like Jack Black being Bowser, because like, honestly, I could go on about it all day. I think it's the perfect casting. And
I also think like, Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach, that's great.
Definitely.
I'm like everybody else, I'm a huge fan of Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And then you got Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong.
I know. We haven't heard him yet, though. We haven't heard his voice yet.
Yeah, we didn't hear him. Like, but we heard Charlie Day as Luigi, which is like, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'll fuck with that. I'll fuck with that. Yeah.
But it's just with Chris Pratt. Like, I'm okay. To be honest, I'm not really that. I'm not like losing my mind over it. But it's just funny how he made that. I still remember that tweet where he's like, "I'm going to do something amazing with his voice," and you just hear it like, "Oh, it's
like when any of the sort of people that fought Jake Paul in the boxing matches. Oh, I'm going to break the internet. I'm going to do a madness. Nope.
No,
they'll just end up on the bottom of the heap.
It's like, no, I got pay, so I got
yeah. You just got a boxing match to just get paid. But that is what it is. You know what, in a way you could say this episode really has been sort of like talking about like we're kind of like our concerns for video game adaptations. It's quite a natural spin of an episode. Like, we really haven't thought about this, we've just gone into it.
We're going to talk about a few things, and then even you, I was thinking about it, but you just said it. You're like, the news right now is a little bit. I mean, we don't want to talk about anything about. We don't want to talk about like anything about the toys are doing, because it's just like the same shit every day and every. Well, it's not really depressing. It's just like, oh god, what they've done now.
At this point now, we are past that depression level when it comes to the Tory party. But like when it comes to just general things that we just hear every day, we're just like, another thing, another one. It's basically like another one, really, another one. Are you serious?
It's like, oh wait. There's more.
That's it. Coming up in a minute, more misery. After the break, more misery.
and it's the same with, like, I could talk about. I will still continue talking about Kanye West, because he still needs to be held accountable with the shit that he talks about. That he's basically just continuing to be anti-black and anti-Jewish, like anti-Semitic.
He just basically wants to be white at this point. Let's be honest.
Well, there's the fact that he's just like, that moment when he wore a White Lives Matter T-shirt along with Candace Owens during a Paris Fashion Week or something like that.
It was ridiculous, wasn't it?
And then Candace Owens was like, "You didn't make us wear those T-shirts. You made us." And I'm like, "Fuck you fuck."
Yeah, I know. Less is said about him at this moment, but like, I mean, if you follow us on Instagram already, you guys know that we already, share stuff like about this, all the bad things that need to be sorted out.
And it's like, and the thing about it is like, we just had a mental health week, or mental health awareness
men's mental health week.
Men's mental health week, yeah. And then basically you've got all these people that are still defending Kanye West. It's like, oh, he's got mental health issues, he needs help. And I'm like, how many times have I heard this before?
Exactly.
I've gone way past.
At this point, you basically just need to do this. Hello, this is a public service announcement for Kanye West, or Ye, or whatever you want to pronounce as. Get the fuck into rehab, mental asylum, sort yourself out, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, like he needs to be like. I know this is probably harsh to say, but it's like he needs to be committed. Like,
I don't think it's a harsh reality. I think it's the truth. It's literally the truth.
Like, it's just like he's clearly. He has says that previously in the past that he has mental health issues, which is like great. At least you're acknowledging it.
No, he's not.
Are you getting help?
He's talking about it, but he's not wearing it on his sleeve. That's the problem, isn't it? He's just using it as an excuse,
or at least his entourage are not helping him get the help that he needs.
This is the thing. I think because of his mental health illnesses, he's influenced way too easily.
I mean, at least, I mean, it took a bit too long for Adidas to drop him.
Yeah.
When he said, I can say because when he said that moment, I can say anti-Semitic shit and Adidas won't be able to drop me.
And then it was like, ass.
They basically dropped his. Well, it was like every other company dropped him.
Even his banks in America dropped him, didn't they? Goldman Sachs, right?
Yeah, and then the fact that he tried to go into Skechers, and then they kicked him out.
It's so like, fucking really weird.
It was just like both me. I was just laughing. I'm like, dude, really?
Really? Did you really want to stoop that low?
And then what was it? He was showing porn to the executives of, I can't remember what company it was.
Do you know what? I don't know. No, it was Adidas. He was showing it to the executives of Adidas.
Oh, was it Adidas? Oh, God. Yeah, I do remember. But the fact he just, they're having an executive meeting, and then he just brought up his phone and just showed porn to the executives, and you're just like, what the hell?
That's like a teacher in a classroom going, right, kids, I'm going to show you a video about how to do wanking. You just can't do that.
Man, don't give the Conservatives any reason. Like, see, they're grooming kids.
Jesus Christ!
But,
on that less than pleasant note, I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. I'm not gonna lie. It was a good swift episode. To be fair, we when we started this episode, we probably wasn't expecting to go on from talking about
we kind of like we have some ideas about it, and then we went from zombie virus, and we're like, oh, let's talk about video games.
It's a natural cause for us. We anything that's got the word zombie in it, we're going to talk about video games. I mean, you can't really stop it.
I mean, as soon as you say like coronavirus, zombie virus, zombies, coronavirus.
Oh my God, that fucking song, man! Was that Cardi B that did that song? I think it was, wasn't it?
I don't know. It was trending on like Instagram and
early days,
and TikTok. Because I remember one person I saw, like it was trying to eat and drink, and somebody goes coronavirus, and it was like,
it just makes you think of all of those days back indoors. Oh God, it gives me the shakes. It does thinking about that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we are pretty much staying indoors at this way because now it's getting cold, but then it's like getting cold here because we're trying to conserve our heating. Yeah. Although we're not doing too bad here. Like, I mean, it does get a bit cold, but we occasionally just put the heating on every so often, as some of us know. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's everywhere else, but we have a bit of a cost of living crisis at the moment.
Yeah, obviously, a lot of it manufactured by the Conservative Party, of course. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Let's spend £1.5 million on a shitty statue.
Thank you, Rishi Dishes. Thank you, our Lord and Saviour.
Thank you, Wishy Dicky Wisonuk. So
Rishi shook you off. Rishi shook you off. I remember hearing that one. Rishi shook you off.
Yeah.
Oh dear me. We're going into madness, guys. We're going into madness.
Yeah, we're just falling our own pandemic. It's like, oh, madness.
Yeah. So, in that hopefully sane respect, we want to thank you very much for joining us, of course, on the podcast. We're always thankful for new and old people coming back.
We're thankful for joining us, or you regrettably joining us.
Yeah, thanks for putting up with our shit, as we do. And, coming to you in, as regularly as we can hope to come through, on the podcast.
I think definitely, within the next couple of weeks, obviously Avatar: The Way of Water is coming out soon, so I'll be definitely watching that, and I'm sure
you can definitely bet I'll be watching that, hopefully either day one or the day after, because honestly, I loved the original Avatar. Like, I'm biased because I really enjoyed it, and like it was something very different. It was one of the first 3D films that came out at the time. I don't know whether this one's going to be in 3D. I don't think it really matters, to be honest. But like just the whole CGI effect, like obviously all of the different characters that in the Na'vi, they had to do motion tracking like for hours and hours and hours. That's why there was a long wait for this new one, probably at the same time.
Well, they shot, obviously because he thought of the technology of, setting it, because obviously we saw the land of Pandora, yeah. And then we got now we're doing of the ocean, like the Na'vi that deals with the oceans in Pandora. So obviously he wants to create, cameras and motion capturing underwater.
Exactly.
Just, and so he is pushing, the technology.
Oh gosh, yeah.
In terms of that. So, and to be honest, all his 3D films, like I remember watching a re-release of Terminator 2 Judgment Day in 3D, and you know what? It was actually one of the best 3D, post-converted 3D movies that I've seen. Like, it wasn't dark, it wasn't like really just rubbish like 3D. Like, it was done really well.
And that's the thing, isn't it? That's, like, to not go into a long conversation about 3D, obviously, but like that's why 3D flopped in the cinemas as well. Let's be honest, it didn't make it beyond the cinemas that far. No one, I don't know anyone who bought a 3D TV. So, yeah,
I think no, that's the thing. Like, I just think I think it was obviously Avatar pushed it, and then obviously they wanted to just follow that. They wanted to follow that trend, and I remember like a bunch of Disney films wanted to go 3D, and it then slowly died.
Yeah.
The majority of the screenings that I booked at the Odeon that close to me, majority of it was in 3D. So I think he is still pushing the 3D with Avatar.
Yeah, I mean, I have no issue with watching it in 3D. Like, I mean, there might be the 4DX experience with the glasses. I don't know, at Cineworld, so I might check that out. It really all depends.
I mean, it has been a while since the 3D, so obviously so the technology may have been improved since then. It has been, yeah.
Either way, though, it should be a good release, and it'll be probably the next thing we talk. Almost certainly will be the next thing we talk about in the next episode together. Whether it's this side of Christmas or not, I'm not sure yet. Obviously,
and then obviously we got the release of the Netflix release of Glass Onion
I can finally
on the 23rd of December. Yeah, I've seen it twice now. Once at the BFI Film Festival, and then just recently on the last day with my mum at the cinemas. So. It was just really good to watch it on the big screen, which I feel a bit ashamed that you didn't get to experience it. But
I'm not honestly, I ain't gonna lose sleep over it. But like, I'm excited for it, and I can wait. I did have that conversation with you the other day. I was a bit pissed that they didn't really do the crossing of the two at the same time, and it was a bit shit. But hey, it is what it is. Yeah, thanks very much for joining us, guys, for this episode of the What Topic podcast. I'll say we could keep going for a bit longer, but we know we want to keep this not too long. We're keeping it around the hour mark. Plus, I've just literally earshot heard I'm being called for dinner. When you live at home, you got to try and be careful of the hours of eating. But of course, as always, we've both been your hosts, Josh Deakin at Mr. Josh Deakin.
And your co-host, Owun Birkett at Owun.Birkett.
And as always, stay safe, be careful out there, don't touch strangers, I don't know, any of those things. And we'll see you, hopefully, very soon for another episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you then.